How is everybody doing today? Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Haven't been live with you guys in a minute. I wanted to check in with all of you um, to talk a little bit about what's going on in the market right now. There's a couple of things that you have to do to remain competitive. To otherwise you're just going to basically sit around on the sidelines and look at overly expensive deals and just get frustrated and wait for the market to crash, right? Whereas me and my clients are still buying deals regularly, it has gotten more challenging and there's been some adjustments we've had to make. I want to share with you what those adjustments are so that you can get in the game. Because a lot of people, they're out there trying hard, but they're not doing the two things that I'm going to bring up today. Okay. So yeah, that's what we're going to get into. Hope you guys are well. We have a almost 6-week-old daughter. So I've been learning how to be a dad, feeding the baby at night, doing all that stuff. It's been so much fun though. And just like this whole new dimension of life has kind of opened up. It's weird. Like you think it would take away from the amount of free time you have, but in a way it actually makes you feel more free because you realize like how much you care about your baby, and all this other like not important shit kind of falls by the wayside. So it's been not as challenging as everyone told us it would be. Maybe we're lucky. I don't know. That's what I've been up to. Let me know what you guys have been up to in the comments, and post your questions as we go throughout this today, because we'll do some Q&A. I'll check the comments before we sign off and I'll answer any questions that I can for you guys. Cool. So let's dig into the meat. I know you guys are wondering, how do we get deals right now? What are these shifts we need to make? So let's back up a little bit and sort of talk about, how we got to where we are right now. I got into investing like 9 years ago or something like that. And it was very different back then. It was much more of a buyer's market. The market hadn't recovered that much from the '08 crash. Prices were still cheap and all that. And, you used to be able to just like, you could get deals on the MLS when I first got into investing, right? And it's just gotten so much more competitive and expensive as time's gone on, that now we're kind of at a point where it's almost impossible. And I watched that happen like throughout my career. It would just get like, marketing would work worse. All of a sudden we're being pushed out to new areas and picking new markets. I started in Nashville and used to be able to get a house in Nashville, believe it or not, for like $50K on the MLS. And now like there's no way you could find something that cheap, even if you did the most hardcore direct to seller marketing or whatever. Those same houses are like 200 grand. And then so I started looking in other markets where it was cheaper, like Huntsville, Alabama, Clarksville, Tennessee, Columbia, Tennessee. Some of those markets have now gotten too expensive as well, even though like the houses are still cheap in those markets. It's gotten so competitive that the prices get driven up. Okay. So it's like a wholesaler can get something under contract for 60 and then find someone to pay like 85 for it. And it only rents for $850 a month. So it's like a 1% rental, and it needs 10K in rehab. Right. And so like these mom and pop investors have now even infiltrated the traditionally good rental markets. And they're just, if you're actually like a savvy investor and you know how to run numbers and you want $200 or $300 per door in net cash flow like you should, and you want some equity, right? You want to do a BRRRR deal, have some equity when it's all said and done, you're kind of screwed. Because if someone will pay more than you, more than something's worth, what are you going to do? Like if you went to the Toyota dealership and all the Toyota 4Runners were all of a sudden $100,000 each, just because all these people were like agreeing to pay that much, what would you do? You'd be like, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to buy a car right now. I'm going to sit on the sidelines and wait for things to cool off, because I know those cars are not worth $100,000, right? I know that's what I would do. And I always bring up 4Runners because those are my favorite cars. But like, that's kind of the situation we're in with houses. Whereas if someone will pay something, that's technically the value, even if it's not really worth that in the long run. So that's kind of where we are right now. Like Indianapolis, Indiana, for example, you can like go on the MLS and find cheap houses there, but most of those are in bad areas. You don't really want to invest there. And when you identify those good areas, they're being relentlessly attacked by the realtors and the wholesalers. And then like they're getting properties listed, or wholesalers are getting them under contract. By the time it sees all those eyes, the price gets driven up pretty high, and the sellers are still pretty cocky about what their house is worth, as they should be. I mean, if something will sell for a certain price, if I was a seller, I wouldn't want to take a big hit on it, especially if I wasn't in like, a tricky situation. So, it's tough right now. Okay. And that's the truth of it. I think a lot of people will tell you otherwise. They'll tell you that, you can just go out there and get a rental property and, and achieve passive income. And the truth is that, it's never been more challenging to do that. And that's what I tell my private clients. I'm like, you guys got into real estate at the worst time you ever could have chosen to do this, because it's never been more expensive. It's never been more competitive or more challenging to get a foothold right now than it's ever been. Right now is the hardest time. But then I tell them, B, you also got in at the best time you ever could get in, because when the market's like this, when it's so ridiculous that, you go get your hair cut and your hairdresser's like, yeah, me and my husband just bought a house, we're going to flip it. And they tell you the price they bought it at, and you're cringing knowing they're going to lose money. Like when things are like that, that is when a recession is coming. And please don't buy into like any kind of news articles that say that, it's never going to end or whatever. That just goes against everything that history has taught us, right? Like if you look at like 100+ years of data on the real estate market, it goes like this, guys. Like, so does the stock market. Just go look at it if you don't believe me. And to think that history will not repeat itself, to me, is ignorant. Until history proves us otherwise, like, don't, come up with some new unfounded theory on what's going to happen. You're better off looking at what happened in history, because the saying history repeats itself is a saying for a reason. Okay. So this will end. It will become easy to get deals again. It will become, a buyer's market again, where you are in the power seat and people are begging you to buy their house. I know it's probably hard to imagine. It used to be that way. And in a down market, that's how it is, right? Because the sellers, like every house on the street is listed on the MLS, and none of them are selling, everyone's on hard times. They're just trying to, get what they can. And that's when investors make the majority of their wealth, the good investors. But I want to warn you guys that when that recession comes, your psychology is going to tell you not to buy houses. Okay. Because our psychology, it like looks at what other people do and it copies it. Right. So I remember like back when the houses were 50K on the MLS in Nashville, and me and other investors were like scoffing at those prices. Like, I can't believe they would ask 50K for that. It's definitely not worth more than like 35, maybe 40, and we're like worried about that last 10K. That was silly, right? But at the time, our psychology felt otherwise because we're looking at what all these other investors are doing, and that sinks into your brain. So I'm just telling you, when the market tanks, you're not going to want to buy houses because you're going to think that, like, because if you don't see everyone else doing it, you're not going to want to do it either, because we have this herd mentality that's kind of built into us. And a lot of people are going to run from real estate when this correction occurs. I predict that I'm actually going to have a harder time getting on this Facebook group and saying, guys, buy rentals, create passive income when the market tanks than I would right now when the market is at a peak and it's super hard to get a foothold. And that's kind of funny, isn't it? It's like backwards. Like, it should be easier to convince someone to get in the game when the getting's good. But our psychology works in reverse. That's why when the market dips, everybody like panics and they sell all their stocks. So you definitely want to do what Warren Buffett says: be greedy when people are fearful, and be fearful when they're greedy. So that recession is coming. So I tell my clients, I'm like, this is technically the hardest time ever to get in the game, but it's also the best time ever to get in the game, because you need to be ready to clean up when the market corrects. You need to have picked your market, built your team, figured out how to analyze deals, make seller financing offers, connected with private lenders. You've got good contractors, property managers ready to go. You have a great process for managing your rehabs long distance. If you're like me, you live in Denver and you invest, 2,000 miles away, you need a process for that. And you don't want to be trying to figure all that out when the houses are now like half price. You want to be ready to clean up. Okay. So don't beat yourself up if you're like, it's such a hard time to get in the game. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything to create the scenario we're in. Just stay the course. Okay. You guys need to have a longer term mindset about real estate investing. I was at a seminar one time and the guy said, I want everyone here to commit to a minimum of 5 years of pursuing and growing your real estate business. And I was like a young wholesaler, and I was trying to get rich in, 3 months or 6 months max. And that totally shifted my paradigm. It's like, wait, I got to commit to something for 5 years. And I'm a pretty non-committal guy by nature. It took me 9 years to propose to my wife, right? Like, when I committing to things just kind of has always made me be like, oh, what about my freedom? But committing to something for the long haul is really the only way you're ever going to see results. So if you guys have not mentally committed to at least 5 years of, I'm going to buy rentals, I'm going to create passive income, then I'm worried about you. Okay. Because you're probably going to give up too soon. And it took me that long to get enough rentals to pay all the bills. It took me 3, 4, 5 years. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was something around there. It's going to take you a little bit of time. I've had clients who have gotten 10, 12 houses in their very first year, but they're usually the exception. That's not common, right? They either had a lot more time, or maybe they had some cash, or maybe they had a market where they, could find deals easier than most people, or maybe they just went harder at it because they had a stronger why. They wanted to quit their job faster. That's one of the biggest things that I see in people who get fast results, is they're just fed up with their current situation. Okay. But think long-term mindset, guys. Okay. Because a 3, 4, or a 5-year retirement plan is way better than what, most people are doing. And this isn't just a retirement plan. You build massive wealth if you built a portfolio for 5 years straight, way more wealth than the average retiree has. And You'll have passive income when they just have a nest egg that they have to pull from. And it's just such a different thing because you don't have to sell your properties to live. You just live off the income, keep the equity. All right. So we've done enough setup. Okay. But I hope that pumped you guys up and gave you some confidence. Let's talk about the 2 shifts that you need to make to find deals right now. Okay. And grab some agua. Got my green smoothie, got my coffee, and my water. That's the typical trio for every day over here, so I can get crazy. So the first thing that it's really important. Remember when I talked about like a market like Indianapolis and how it's got cheap houses for sure. A lot of them are in bad areas, but the ones that you want, the C-class or better neighborhoods, they're getting bid up too much. There's way too much competition. I think a lot of these markets, have so many investors coming in just because they're popular. You can get on like Bigger Pockets and you can talk about, or you can like look up what are the best markets for real estate. And everyone will say it's Columbus, Ohio. It's like Jacksonville, Florida. It's Nashville, Tennessee. It's Huntsville, Alabama. It's Indianapolis, it's Houston. Like there's like all these markets that are talked about and everyone's focusing on those areas. Okay. And if you were going to pick your market to invest in, I would want you to pick one of those areas too. There's a lot of different criteria that goes into this. I'm not going to go into every single detail on this call, but I'd want you to pick one of those bigger markets too, because there's just a lot more opportunity in a bigger market. And when things cool off, I want you to be in a bigger market, right? So I would want you to pick like something like Indianapolis or whatever. I'm just using that as an example, by the way. I'm not saying it's like the best market or anything. I don't invest there, but I just know it's a popular one. But here's the thing, guys. If you go try to invest in Indianapolis proper, you will struggle the way things are right now, okay? And so you have to go outside of that city. Okay. And I'm just going to actually share my screen and like show you what I'm talking about. Let me just pull it up on the map. All right. So hope you guys can see this. So I just pulled up Indianapolis on Google Maps and we'll zoom in here. So this is like the city. But here's the thing, guys, like you're going to struggle too much to find deals right here in Indianapolis. And so you need to be looking for deals in some of these fringe markets outside. Oh, look, there's an Ellwood, Indiana. I might start buying deals there. 1L though. But you've got to look outside. Okay. So let's say you and me were going to be business partners and we were going to invest in Indianapolis. I'd be like, dude, let's check out this Lafayette. What's this? It looks like a medium-sized city. Let's check out Shelbyville. Let's check out Bloomington. Let's check out Terre Haute. I would also look at some of these smaller ones like Greenwood or Franklin or Carmel, like Mechanicsburg, Frankfurt. Okay. So I would actually have all these different cities like on a spreadsheet. I'd be checking out their population size and their growth and their economic trends just to make sure, like Champaign or Decatur, I'd want to see how far away, because there's a certain radius that I wouldn't go past. But if I would want to add those to the marketing efforts. I'd want to add that to our criteria. Okay. I would not want to just focus on Indianapolis and fight with every other person that's in that city proper. Okay. If you do that, like it's just, you're just, those sellers are being bombarded by everybody. Sell me your house, sell me your house, sell me your house, sell me your house. Right. And then if something does go up for sale, there's so much competition, right? But how many people have you talked to that are looking for deals in Bloomington, Indiana? I'm assuming that's still in Indiana, but you get my point, right? Like, or any of these other small towns. And if Indianapolis is growing and has strong economic prospects, then what direction does growth happen, right? It can only go up so much, right? You can only build like so many skyscrapers in a city. It's got to go out, right? And so it will be good for you to own properties on the fringe of a growing city where the prices are increasing. You've got tech companies moving in, you've got economic diversity. It's gentrifying, it's getting quote unquote cool. If cities are getting cool, you're going to make some money if you can buy in and around those cities, because that's where the house prices go up. You have all the millennials moving there, coffee shop, restaurant, breweries going in, that kind of stuff. Okay. So that's the first one of the two shifts we're going to talk about today. The first one is you need to open yourself up to these surrounding areas. I don't care how funny these little country town names sound or how goofy you might feel saying that you're looking for deals in Ellwood, Indiana. If it meets certain criteria, there's definitely criteria you need to look at, right? Like if it was less than like 20 or 30,000 people living there, I would pass on it, right? So I'm not talking about like a little podunk cow town kind of thing. But if it meets certain criteria, you're going to have a way easier time out there than in that core of the city. Okay. So that's shift number one. Let me know what questions you have in the comments about that. I'm going to go ahead and move on to shift number two because I got about 20 more minutes here. But you got to start looking outside of your core markets. Make sense? Okay. Open yourself up to whatever areas. It's better. You'd be better off doing deals because we don't know. I'd love to say, yeah, guys, the market's going to correct in 6 months or 3 months or 12 months, but nobody knows. We've been saying this for like 2 years now. And there's no point sitting on the sidelines waiting for that to happen when you can continue to do deals. I'm about to get a mobile home under contract in a small town that's like 20 minutes outside of Clarksville, Tennessee. Seller is doing seller financing, principal only payments. It's going to be a great deal. And I'm going to make $400 a month in cash flow plus paying the, more like 200 a month plus paying the principal down by 400 a month on every single month, right? Got that deal from my own marketing. And yeah, it's 20 minutes outside of that core area I'm looking, but like, who cares? If I add that to my portfolio, it's going to increase my wealth. It's going to increase my monthly income. And it's in an area that the property managers will drive to and manage. It's not so rural that like if I looked it up on Google Maps and I saw a mobile home and then like nothing on either side for miles, I would not have bought it, but there's like houses all around it, right? It's not like the most rural area. Okay. So I want you guys to be doing deals. I don't want you to be twiddling your thumbs. And to do deals, you're going to have to go away from this crazy competition, because if you're in a city like Nashville or something, there's just no way. I mean, Nashville is like long gone, but like if you're in a city, it's just too tough to do good deals there the way the market is. Okay. All right. So here's the other shift. So if you add a bunch of fringe areas to your marketing efforts, things will get way easier for you. But here's the thing. Going back to the big cities, the cities that we've kind of talked about. If you try to find deals in those cities on the MLS, you're going to struggle. I talked to a guy on Bigger Pockets the other day, and he was stoked about getting started. And he was saying, I'm connected with a couple of investor friendly real estate agents and they're sending me deals, but everything's too expensive. I knew, as someone who's been in this game for a little bit, that would happen. Like, to me, that's no surprise that happened to him, because that's like literally how the game goes. Like, you're wasting your time linking up with another agent and saying, hey, I'm looking for rental properties. And then they send you something, because like there's thousands of eyes on that deal. I'm just going to make up some rough numbers. Okay. But I wouldn't be surprised if a house gets listed for sale, as a potential rental property. It's kind of like in that price range where they say it could be a rental property, probably too expensive. You're competing with, let's say, like 3,000 other investors. Okay. So what do you think is going to happen? Like, do you think you're going to get that deal at the price you want to get it at? You think there's no chance that one other dumbass in that group of 3,000 is going to overpay for it, or pay more than you will? Right? Because I know you wouldn't be dumb and overpay, but there's somebody in there that will. Okay. So what's the point in competing on those deals? There's not any point. I have never bought a property off the MLS in my entire career. Okay. And between wholesaling and flipping and rentals, I've done at least 500 deals. Okay. Never once have I bought an MLS deal. You don't need to do that either. Now let's go down to the next tier, wholesalers. Okay. I was a wholesaler. When I quit wholesaling, I bought my rentals from wholesalers because I felt like it was easier. I was like, I don't want to get back into direct marketing to sellers and talking to sellers and all that, when I can just have someone do all that for me and tee up a deal for me on a silver platter. And that worked for a number of years, prior to the market getting as crazy as it is right now. And COVID has made this even worse. In the markets where I invest, I used to see, 5, 7, 8 wholesale deals a week. And now it's like one a week, because things have just slowed down. I guess sellers aren't wanting to meet and have people in their house as much, or wholesalers are more timid about things. And so the wholesale deals have really dried up. And then the ones that are there, you guys have seen this. They want way too much for it. They will not allow you to do an inspection period, which is critical. It's like $2,500 non-refundable earnest money required, up front kind of thing. And I do a home inspection for every house that I buy. I always have. I feel like it's well worth the $300 to have an expert with like 20 years of experience go and crawl in the basement and in the attic and check the electrical and check the plumbing and tell you if you should buy the house or not. Because I don't know if any of that shit is in good shape or not. That's never been my strong suit, and I've never needed it. Okay. And so I've always paid for an inspector to go in and do that. But if you don't have a due diligence period, if the wholesaler says like, nah, you can go get your inspector in, but that's prior to going under contract, then you're just like wasting time scheduling an inspection, trying to get them over there, and then trying to get the report back. And then you're going to make an offer and hope that they accept it. And you already spent money and time on the inspection. That's a stupid way to go about it too. And it's very prohibitive of wholesalers to do it that way. At the same time, they're getting people to pay for their deals on those terms. So it's like nothing against them, but I'm just saying for someone like me, that doesn't work. Okay. And so, and on top of that, the prices are all way too high. So what we have done to undercut wholesalers and to get back to a place where we're seeing deals with very little competition is to start direct marketing to sellers again, which is something I had not done for years since quitting wholesaling. And it's been amazing, because when you talk to a seller that you've directly marketed to, you're probably only competing with maybe 5 other people, give or take, right? Maybe if there's a few other people that contacted them about buying their house. And so again, if you're looking at listed properties, you might be competing with thousands of other people, wholesale deals, hundreds of other people. But if you can connect directly with the seller before they go under contract with a wholesaler, before they list their property, now you're competing with like just a handful of people. Okay. Now, which would you prefer? Right. Not only that, but you're getting it at the best price, right? Wholesalers make 10 to 20 grand per deal on an assignment fee. And that's because they're getting it at 10 to 20K less than they're advertising it out for. Now, how many times have you seen a wholesale deal and you're like, man, I want to buy that, but I really wish it was like $10,000 or $20,000 less? Well, there's a way to get it for that, but you've got to do the thing that wholesalers are doing, which is going direct to the sellers. Okay. So can you see how if you identified a bunch of those little fringe markets where there's a lot less competition outside of the main market, and then on top of that, you market directly to those sellers, you'd have a huge leg up on doing deals right now. Another thing to think about is a lot of wholesalers, in my opinion, mistakenly are not targeting those fringe areas too much. And so if you were to not do direct to seller marketing, you'd have to rely on them to hopefully bring you a deal in one of those fringe markets, but they're all focused on that core market. So you're kind of sitting back, waiting, passive. Being in kind of a passive like state is not the best place to be as an entrepreneur, as an investor. You need to start believing that you can create your life. You can create your financial situation. You can create wealth. Things don't happen to you. You know, you go out and create things. Okay. And so, you know, you need to direct a seller market to be able to generate deals in those areas. Those sellers are not getting nearly as much marketing to them as the ones in the big cities. Okay. So right there, your competition is going to be less. You can still market to like your core city. Like if you pick Huntsville, Alabama, you know, I still send direct mail to Huntsville, Alabama, but I also send it to like 5 or 6 other fringe areas around there. Okay. Because we'll still pull deals out of Huntsville, but it's just less frequent. Okay. So you guys have got to learn how to do this. And there's so many ways to make this like more hands-off, more automated. Like for example, I started out taking all the calls from the sellers when I got back into direct marketing. You know, I'd drop 1,500 letters and get 15 phone calls all in 1 week, which I should have spread those out. I don't know why, but I did that a couple of times. And I was like, I don't really want to talk to all these sellers and thoroughly work these leads the way I know they need to be worked. And I also don't really have the time to do that. So you know what? I'm going to find somebody who can do it for me. And so I partnered with a wholesaler who I have a relationship with, and I've got the calls going to him because he's a professional and he's great at what he does. And we have an arrangement where, you know, I'll pay him a small fee if he gets something for me, and then he's going to pay me a small fee for the deals that he wholesales, which most of them won't work for me. And then so he gets free leads out of the deal. There's so many ways to structure things, guys. Like, so if you're thinking like, I don't want to direct to seller market because I would hate to do this or that, who could do it for you? You know, you don't have to create more jobs for yourself to be as successful as an entrepreneur and an investor if you have the right mindset. Okay. And so that's it, guys. I'm going to check the comments to see if there's any questions you guys submitted. If you have any questions that you want to post, by all means, post them right now. But I wanted to share that with you guys because if you're struggling right now to do deals and you're not doing these two things, then, you know, I hope this has cleared things up for you. I hope that this has made things more clear for you. And just like, I don't want you to waste your time. You know what I'm saying? I don't want you to just sit around and casually look at overpriced wholesale deals and look at MLS deals and look at deals only in those, big cities where everyone's at. I don't want you guys to waste your time doing that. You would be better off literally just like um, either deciding to just put real estate on hold for a while and be like, I'm not going to do anything. That would just take the pressure off yourself, preserve your mental bandwidth for other things in your life. You'd be better off to do that versus to be kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Okay. Otherwise, you need a proven plan in order to make this happen. Okay. Like if you do want to do this, like you need to, follow a roadmap. And if you guys have been wanting to get into real estate, and I don't see any questions, I'm going to keep riffing here, but let me know if I'm missing anything. If you guys have been wanting to get into real estate, yet you have always kind of struggled to know, what do I focus on? I haven't picked my market. I'm not sure about the financing. I'm not really sure how to analyze a deal. How do you find private lenders, Brian? How do you get contractors? I get all these questions all the time, right? I'm going to encourage you to open your mind to getting some help with that. And yes, we coach people. This is what we do. Okay. So this is a self-serving plug, but I'm genuinely telling you that getting help from someone like hold your hand and walk you through it is always the fastest way to get any result in life. I calculated the amount of money I've spent on personal growth, every seminar, every book, every one-on-one coach, every mastermind I've been in, and I've been heavy into that stuff for the better part of a decade. It was $400,000, okay, that I've personally invested. So I'm at like a run rate of like 40 grand a year on coaching and masterminds and education. And not all of that was well spent. Okay. I definitely like bought into some stuff that I didn't use, or it wasn't the right fit for me. But some of it where I made sure that the outcome was clear on what I was going to get, that is what catapulted me to having freedom in my life and having wealth and having, the ability to sit here with you guys on a Wednesday morning drinking coffee on Facebook. Right. And so I do, regularly kind of coach people on thinking more about getting help. Okay. And if you've been thinking about like, I might like to get some help, I might like to at least sort of see what the roadmap looks like for me, then just comment down below, just give me a yes in the comments. We'll reach out to you on Messenger and just learn a little bit more about you to see if you'd even be a good fit for what we do. But what we do is line up the dominoes for you. So you don't have to worry about what step you're on. You don't have to think, well, I need to figure out, like, so many people talk to me. They're like, Brian, is this a good deal? And I'm like, well, what market is that in? And they're like, I don't know. I saw it on Facebook. It's like they haven't even really, researched markets. And market research is so important, guys. Like and this is not to brag, okay? But this is kind of a crazy story. Like when I bought my first couple dozen rentals in Nashville, I really just bought them there because I lived there. Nashville turned out to be one of the top appreciating markets in the whole country during this whole real estate bull market. And the properties that I owned appreciated a little over $1 million, like 25 houses over holding them over like a whole bull market, right? I've since sold some of those, rolled the equity into other deals and stuff like that. But like, that was just, and I got lucky, like I said, because I just lived there. But Nashville was for me basically $1 million market. Okay. And then all of a sudden it was like quickly too expensive, and there was like you could never buy anything else there. But what I did is I dug in and I was like, well, what made Nashville what it was? What are the criteria that are in place to, you know, for a market to blow up like that? And now I teach my clients to apply that criteria to their market selection so that they pick a really great market that's, you know, poised to appreciate and blow up. I'm not guaranteeing you'll make $1 million in equity, but if you were going to pick a stock, you'd be way better off researching those companies for a while to see, you know, which of these companies could become the next Google or the next Facebook or whatever, than just blindly picking something or not doing anything at all, which is what a lot of people are doing. Okay. So again, if you guys want someone to help you and just say, all right, dude, here's the very first thing you need to do, and then we're going to focus on this. So you can put blinders on. You can get out of the podcasts. You can get out of the YouTube videos. You can even get out of like hopping on these Facebook Lives with me where I'm telling you pieces of the puzzle. But if you want someone to show you the how, like how do you do direct to seller marketing? How specifically do you pull the lists, edit them, write the copy, you know, use this mail house? What do you do in the seller calls? What's the intake form? That's what we work with people on. A to Z, the whole process. You don't have to wonder anymore. Just comment yes in the comments down below, and we will reach out to you guys and just see kind of what your goals are and see if it would be a good fit for us to have a conversation or not. Sound good? Cool. Well, guys, that's all I got for today. I really appreciate everyone who hopped on for this live stream. And I'm always here if you need me. I hang out in this group. So if you have questions about real estate investing, you want to get freedom for your family and you, which I know after interviewing lots of different people and clients is everyone's number one driver. Real estate can do that for you. You need a solid plan, and you need to commit to this for longer than a month or 6 months. Have a long-term mindset. I've got your back. And with that, I'm going to hop off. You guys have a fantastic day. I will see you soon. Peace.